Hi everybody, Miscellaneous here and welcome back to my channel. This is where I take you to see interesting, offbeat and quirky tourist attractions. Now today's really is a hidden gem. If you didn't know it was here and stumbled across it, you'd be well surprised. I'm talking about Eastbury Manor House in Dagenham, Essex. It dates back from 1573 and sits in the middle of a post-war housing estate. Come and take a walk in my shoes and I will take you to a painted hall, thought to be done by a roving jobbing artist. I will also show you that recycling is nothing new, as the timbers that make up this house came from old ships. I will also explain to you the weird markings on the exterior walls of the house. Remember to hit like, hit subscribe and click on that notifications bell. Stick a flower in your hair for unity, blokes included, and I will see you in the video.
Eastbury Manor House is an Elizabethan mansion that sits on land which was once part of the demesne of Barking Abbey. It cost me £7 to get in, which I thought was perfectly reasonable. I was lucky enough to stumble upon a free guided tour. Building began in 1566 with completion in 1573 for Clement Sisley, who was a wealthy merchant. It was probably the first brick building in the area at the time, with glass windows and high chimneys indicating the wealth of its owner. Note that this is a house that gentry would have lived in, not aristocracy. The area was not densely populated in the way it is today, and there wouldn't have been other homes in the vicinity, leading to an unspoiled view. Dagenham was underdeveloped until 1921. The house is north facing and we don't really know why this is. It has been suggested that it's because people wore heavier clothes then and they wanted to stay cooler in the summer. Or it could be because they have a family garden at the back and they wanted that to be south facing. The building was built in the classic Tudor H shape, which means it has a central area and 4 wings. Our guide took us to overlook the front of the house, and can you see the heart there on the wall, in between the windows? What is its significance? Well, it wasn't because the owner was in love. But we'll get back to that later. Here is the entrance desk, and the room it sits in was once the buttery, although it later became a living room. Here you can buy some souvenirs. And there is a timeline on the wall and evidence of the room's change of use. The building has been much modified over the centuries. It's called a buttery because this is where butts or barrels would have been stored, full of foodstuffs. There is also a cellar, although we weren't allowed to go down there and we were told that there isn't much to see down there anyway. I had a little nose into the hall, and ceremonies and functions are held in here. The stairs are Victorian. The tapestry is modern. I decided to have a nose up the chimney. The ledges inside are for chimney cleaners. They would stand on these whilst cleaning the chimney. I don't think that's a job I would have liked. This is the only chimney you can see up in the house, although all chimneys are blocked off, so you can't light fires here. Me having a little nosy around. And Eastbury Manor House is closed to the public on Saturdays, and that's so that weddings can take place here on that favoured day of the week. The fireplace would have had a decorative plaster surround. Details about that are available on the wall. I had a little nose into this room. There appear to be costumes for dressing up in. I had to go and spy inside the fireplace, and yes, it is definitely blocked off. Hey, I'll have a wave from a vain old tart. There would have been a dais in the Great Hall, which the Sisleys would have sat on whilst entertaining to show off their wealth and status. This is the summer parlour, and the door is original and the thickness of 2 planks of wood. The house stopped being a home for the wealthy around 1850. It has since been used as a stable and a nursery. It was once a factory creche for local workers around 1941. If you look around, you can see evidence of where maybe a hayloft was to feed the hay through to the horses, and possibly another door. We ventured out to the back, and this would have been the family garden. I went for a little wander around, and we did question what the wooden plots were for. And apparently a local acting troupe rehearses here.
A family garden. So, try and imagine it laid out with flower beds and little pathways. I don't know about this man, but certainly a lot of tutors were very keen on their gardens. This is very lots of books were being printed. Nice coming round with flowers and that.
Of particular interest to me are these little niches around the walls. Now these are bee bowls or skeps. The hives were put here at night, as brick heats up during the day and retains its heat at night. Honey was very important to households such as these, as the cost of sugar was astronomical. There are 16 bee bowls around this garden. The door here looks quite misplaced. As you can see, it cuts into a window. As I said, many alterations have taken place over the years. Maybe the person who did this was more worried about practical concerns rather than aesthetics. We headed straight out to the back and into the courtyard. Now this courtyard would once have contained a well. Here I am looking up at the chimneys.
Perhaps and became a national trust property, they decided to replace that long this wooden facade. They did that because
Here I am having a bit of a nosy Parker at these original stairs.
show something here.
There were two sets of stairs, the other set was pulled down in the early 19th century.
But that's too long because you've got a clear there and the doors, why do you need two doors? Why forget?
Here is the other set. Now these are modern and were replaced with lottery funding. They don't go all the way up and are used as a fire escape. Here's me gawping through a piece of glass. You couldn't really see much down here. I don't know if the camera can pick anything up, apart from my reflection. Now the garderobes, that's the Carsies, would have sat in the corners. The waste would have fallen straight down for the night soil man to come and take away. Again, that's another job I really would not have wanted. Don't forget to check out my blog. I will always be a writer before anything else. Now, we came out of the back of the courtyard. This is a place where neither the family or their guests would ever have come, but the wall was of significant interest. You can see changes in the colours of the bricks. That is down to refurbishment. Take a look in the corner here and what have we. At first I thought it was diamonds, but it's not. It's actually clubs. Yes, the markings on the wall represent playing cards. Why is that? Well, we don't know. I did ask whether Clement Sisley would have attained his wealth through gambling, and was told that while the Elizabethans did gamble, he would not have made enough money to be able to buy a property such as this. We were shown this private area, which is believed to have been a shrine created by John Moore, who had Catholic sympathies, but more about him later. Now, the cauldron would have been hoisted up via pulleys because it was very heavy. There's the door to the kitchen garden. I had to have a little look at the menu. And I had a nosy Parker next door into the steward's room, just to see what it was about. That's classic wood panelling. Now this part of the kitchen is where meat would have been hung to keep it away from vermin and cats and dogs. This was a warming oven. It's where you kept your food warm. None of the plants and herbs growing here would have been available during Elizabethan times, but we came to have a look out here as there were more markings on the wall. Look, we can see a heart here, just by the door. And right up there's a diamond. Why is it wonky? Why is it off centre? Well, it was mentioned that maybe the only person who's allowed to be perfect is God. Here we are walking up the original stairs. The workmanship is considered fantastic for its time. They slot in around the central post perfectly. The central post would have been an old ship's mast. Recycling is nothing new, and the docks were very nearby. Up into what is known as the octopus room. Now, this cabinet is interesting. No one knows how it got in the room, but it certainly can't get out. It doesn't fit through any of the doors. This room discusses the octopus spreading its tentacles around. And how Dagenham was developed. One place we weren't taken to was the garderobe, or Kazi. Here is a picture taken from the last time I visited. The waste would have dropped directly down into the courtyard. Nice. Now, William Morris gets a mention as he founded the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings. From 1910, Eastbury Manor House was under threat as parts of the land began to be sold off. The SPAB stepped in and worked with the National Trust to save the house. The National Trust acquired it in 1918 and leased it to Barking Borough Council in 1934. This room has been decorated in the style of William Morris for this reason. And on the screen you have a former resident discussing life in Dagenham. I picked up that the resident's name was Elaine, the best name to have, of course. This room had a costume exhibition in it. The exhibition is called Eastbury Makers, and the costumes were made by students from South Essex College. The walls discuss people involved with the building, such as McGregor. He was an architect working here in the 1950s, and Eleanor Whitbread, who lived here in the 1850s. Here's a vain old tart waving to you. They are beautifully made. These murals in the former Great Chamber are early 17th century, probably painted during the time of James I, to commemorate the new regime. They were carried out by a jobbing artist, that's someone who went around knocking on doors looking for work. This Great Chamber would once have been 2 bedrooms. Interestingly, this mural depicts features which would have been found on churches in Spain, which would have been Catholic. Around 1603, the house was occupied by a merchant named John Moore, who was married to a Spanish woman, Maria Perez de Recalde. It's likely that he had Catholic sympathies, although he still attended Anglican service, a requirement at the time, and non-attendance resulted in an individual being fined. Was John Moore responsible for the small shrine downstairs? And what did he put on the shelf? Could it have been a statuette of the Virgin Mary? Here's me looking through the window, having my Anne of 1,000 Days moment. The next room would have also once been 2 bedrooms. What are the holes in the timbers about? Well, we don't know. These were also recycled timbers taken from ships. This is the only fireplace in the building which has a plaster surround. The others have been stripped of their plaster. There is a story relating to this house in that it has been said that the conspirators who coordinated the Gunpowder Plot held their meetings here. Others say that it was the residence of Lord Monteagle when he received the letter which led to the said plot's discovery. Neither rumours have any foundation. Now these stairs, rebuilt by lottery funding, are actually going the wrong way. But that means that you can see the original handrail and the moulded bricks it uses. You will also see my clumsy paw go across the screen. I will become a good filmmaker. I promise. This room is on the top floor of the house and would have been a socialising space. All the beams were held together by dovetailing, not nails. Another thing I learnt whilst I was here was that bread used to be cut horizontally, not vertically. And the top slice of bread is favourable as it's further from the soot at the bottom, which would have occurred when the bread was baked in wood-fired ovens. It's where the term upper crust originates from. Now this room to the side of the hall was simply informative. You had to have a little wander around though. Incidentally, we saw hearts, diamonds and clubs outside on the walls. Spades are not included. Spades were considered to be unlucky. Finally, we got to walk right upstairs to the top of the turret. This was one thing I didn't get to do before. It was probably the highlight of my visit, which was spectacular anyway. Thank you for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed my video.
Come and see me again soon for another miscellaneous adventure. Don't forget to click like, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notifications bell. Ta-ta for now.